Good day, everyone, especially to our professor, Dr. Ariel Cobelius. I am Arlene Tiolaco, today's reporter. This morning, we will tackle about Republic Act number 8545. It is an act amending Republic Act 6728, otherwise known as Act providing government and teachers in private education and appropriating funds thereof, establishing a fund for the purpose of subsidizing salaries of private school teachers and appropriating funds thereof. Section 1, title: This act shall be known as the Expanded Government Assistance to Students and Teachers in Private Education Act. In Section 2, Declaration of Policy, we have it is a declared policy of state in conformity with the mandate of the Constitution to promote and make quality education accessible to all Filipino citizens. The state also hereby recognizes the complementary roles of public and private educational institutions in the educational system and the invaluable contribution that the private schools have made and will make to education. For these purposes, the state shall provide the mechanism to improve quality in private education by maximizing the use of existing resources of private education, recognizing in the process the government's responsibility to provide basic elementary and secondary education, post-secondary vocational and technical education, and higher education as having priority over its other function. Elementary education is the first 6 years of basic education, excluding preschool and grade 7, the completion of which is attested by a certificate issued by, with or permission with the Department of Education, Culture and Sports. Secondary education is the next 4 years of basic education, the completion of which attested by a high school diploma issued by or with permission of the Department of Education, Culture and Sports. But now we have already a K-12 curriculum. In post-secondary education, may education and training in non-degree vocational and technical courses offered in post-secondary vocational and technical institution or education and degree courses offered by higher educational institution, the completion of which are attested by a certificate or diploma issued by or with permission of the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority or the Commission on Higher Education, respectively. Next, we have criteria for assistance in Section 3. So the programs for assistance shall be based on a set of criteria which shall include, among others, tuition fees charged by the schools, the socio-economic needs of each region giving priority to the social reform agenda or ISRA provinces, overall performance of the schools, the academic qualification and the financial needs of the students and the teachers, and the financial needs of the schools, as well as the geographic spread and size of student population. In addition to the foregoing criteria, with such reasonable time as the respective state assistant councils may determine, student grantees under the Private Education Student Financial Assistance Program shall be enrolled in schools which have accredited programs or are applying for accreditation as may be recognized by the respective state assistance council. Preference shall be given to students whose family income is not more than 72,000 or such amounts as may be determined by the respective council as defined hereinafter. For, for purposes of this Act, programs of assistance to students and teachers of private post-secondary vocational and technical institutions and higher educational institutions shall likewise be extended to students and teachers of community colleges in degree and non-degree programs. Implementation of the program shall encourage students to undergo post-secondary vocational and technical and higher education courses in the same region where their family reside. The programs of assistance under this Act shall be extended only to students who are citizens of the Philippines. So the State Assistance Council, jointly with the Department of Education, Culture and Sports, the CHED and the TESDA shall formulate measurement standards for the evaluation of the quality of courses as well as the standing and status of the recipient institution. Within 5 years from the approval of this Act, the assistance shall be given to schools, provided that the present allocation of tuition fee and other income of schools shall be used at the same proportion and allocation as provided by law. Okay, now let's move on in section 4, which is forms of assistance. Assistance to private education shall consist of assistance to students and assistance to teachers. The following are forms of assistance to students in private education: tuition fee supplements for students in private high school, including students in vocational and technical courses. It is under by Section 5. So, for students enrolled in schools charging an amount as may be determined by the state assistant councils, the government shall provide them with a voucher in such an amount as may be determined by the council, provided that the government shall reimburse the vouchers from the schools concerned with 120 days from the close of the registration period. Then shall be granted to all private high schools participating in the program for a number of slots as of the effectivity of this Act as the total number of students who avail the tuition fee supplements for school year 1997 to 1998, provided that the State Assistance Council may in subsequent years determine additional slots and or additional participating high school as may be deemed necessary. Next, we have High School Textbook Assistance Fund. Section 6. It is provided that the textbook assistance per student in private high school shall be determined by the council and shall not exceed what students in public high school are provided on a per-student basis under a comprehensive textbook program of the Secondary Education Development Program or SEDP. Provided further that the textbook assistance shall be granted only to beneficiaries of tuition fee, supplements, and educational service contracting scheme provided in this Act. Next, we have Section 7, which is expansion of the existing educational service contracting scheme. The department shall also enter into contracts with private schools and communities where there are no public high schools, in which case the department shall shoulder the tuition and other fees of students who shall enroll in said private schools. The amount of such assistance to be given by the government under this section shall not exceed that determined as the per student cost in public high schools. The department shall fully pay the subsidized amount to participating schools not later than 180 days from the school close of the registration period. The amount of assistance shall be allocated and distributed among the 16 regions in proportion to the total population as well as the high school age population for the first school year, provided that the starting school year 1998 and equalization scheme shall be implemented by the State Assistance Council. The amount of assistance to private high school participating in the program shall be guaranteed for a number of slots as of the effectivity of this act as the number of students availing of educational service contracting assistance for school year 1997 to 1998, provided that the State Assistance Council may in subsequent years determine additional slots and/or additional participating private schools as may be deemed necessary. Now we have in Section 8 the voucher system of the Private Education Student Financial Assistance Program or PESFA. The existing Private Education Student Financial Assistance Program, which covers degree and non-degree vocational technical courses, shall be expanded so that all qualified enrolling first-year students can benefit from a scholarship, plus an allowance. Such financial assistance shall be granted to the serving underprivileged students, who shall be selected on the basis of family income, geographic spread, and results of competitive examination to be given by the CHED for degree courses and the TESDA for non-degree vocational technical courses in all secondary schools and coordination with the DEX. The program shall be equitable allocated to provinces and cities in accordance with regional and national plans to priority determined by the CHED and the TESDA. So for the purpose of this act, an underprivileged student shall refer to as students whose gross income, if any, and that of the combined annual gross income of his or her parents do not exceed 72,000 pesos. Then the continuation in Section 8, scholarship grants to students graduating as valedictorians and salutatorians from secondary schools. So let us talk about tuition waivers. Private post-secondary vocational and technical institution and higher educational institution shall provide for full or half tuition waivers for 5% of the entering freshmen, which shall include among others valedictorians and salutatorians of both public high schools and private high schools, provided that those valedictorians and salutatorians meet the admission test of the school concerns. 10. Allowance for valedictorians. Subject to the rules and regulations as may be promulgated by the State Assistance Council, valedictorians referred to under subparagraph above me in addition to tuition waivers granted by the school concerned be entitled to such allowances from the government as are provided by PISFA grantes, provided they shall enroll in priority courses. Then allowance for other honorees. So in case the graduating class is composed of more than 250 students, all salutatorians and first honorable mention graduates thereof may also be entitled to the allowance granted to valedictorians under the preceding paragraph. Then we have Section 9, tuition fee supplements to student and private colleges and universities, or it is all about further assistance to students in private colleges and universities. So tuition fee supplements for students of private post-secondary vocational and technical institution and higher educational institution enrolled in priority course programs determined by the TISDA and the CHED shall be provided to government through a voucher system in the following manner. Provided that all schools in this category shall not be allowed to raise their fees by more than 12 pesos per unit for both priority and non-priority courses, and provided that such assistance shall be given only to students who have completed one academic year by June 1989 in priority programs and shall not apply to future college students and to current college students who transfer outside of the region. For students in priority programs in schools charging an effective per unit tuition rate of such amount as may be determined by the assistance Council, the government shall provide the student with a voucher for the amount of tuition fee supplement determined by the State Assistance Council. Next, we have Section 10, Educational Loan Fund. We have Study Now, Pay Later plans. There is hereby created a special fund to be known as the Students' Loan Fund to be administered by the CHED, and that is the or upon delegation by the CHED of the Student Loan Fund Authority created under Republic Act No. 6014, which is hereby reinstituted pursuant to the terms of the same Republic Act, which shall be used to finance educational loans to cover matriculation and other school fees and educational expenses for book subsistence and board and lodging. Then, amounts covering payments or tuition and other school fees shall be paid directly to the school concerned. As we have Social Security Fund. The Social Security system shall make available low-interest educational loan to each members and to private educational institution for school buildings and or improvement of their plans and facilities. Then we have Section 11, the right of any student to avail himself herself of the benefits under this act shall not apply if he/she fails for 1 year school year in the majority of the academic subject in which he/she has enrolled during the course of his/her study unless such failure is due to some valid cause beyond his/her control. In Section 12, NSAT Fund. For the purpose of improving the quality of teaching in private secondary education, there is hereby established in the Department of Education, Culture and Sports an NSAT Fund to provide for the upgrading of knowledge and teaching competencies in critical subject areas and for the modernization of teaching techniques and strategies, including training in the use of computers and of other multimedia educational technologies to assist instruction, provided that the NSET fund shall be available only to qualified licensed teachers in participating private high school as determined by the State Assistance Council. Provided further that the amount of EDSET fund available to private secondary education shall not exceed that available to public secondary education on a per capita basis. College Faculty Development Fund in Section 3. So for, for the purpose of improving the quality of teaching in private post-secondary vocational and technical institution and higher educational institution, there is hereby established in the TISDA and CHED a College Faculty Development Fund to provide for scholarship for graduate degree and non-degree workshop or seminars for faculty members in private post-secondary vocational and technical institution and higher educational institutions, provided that the faculty member recipients of such a scholarship shall serve as many number of years return service for every year of scholarship availed of us may be determined by State Assistance Council in conformity with prevailing National Economic and Development Authority or NEDA policies on return service of government scholars. The scholarship shall be in priority courses as determined by the TISTA, the CHED, and cannot be awarded to promote or inhibit sectarian purposes. Teacher's Salary Subsidy Fund in Section 4. A teacher's salary subsidy fund is hereby established in the DEX to grant government subsidy to teachers in private high school participating in the programs of assistance provided in this act, provided that the total monthly salary which includes a subsidy to be received by such private high school teachers shall not be more than 80% of the salary of his counterpart in the public sector, provided further that the amount of monthly subsidy shall not exceed the amount of any monthly salary increase that the teacher in public high school shall after the effectivity of this offer and after receive, provided further that the private high school teachers qualified to receive subsidy under this act are duly licensed by the Professional and Regulation Commission. So that the further that the government shall provide them with a voucher for the salary subsidy which shall be reimbursed directly to the teachers within 60 days after the close of school year upon submission of proof of qualification and actual teaching service in a participating private high school, provided that the present allocation out of increases from tuition and other income shall be maintained. Finally, that in case of insufficiency of funds, priority shall be given to merit teachers supporting a family. Thus, Section 15 Program Administration Rules and Regulation. The State Assistance Council shall be responsible for policy guidance and direction, monitoring and evaluation of new and existing programs, and the promulgation of the rules and regulation, while the Department of Education, Culture and Sports, the TESDA, and the CHED should be responsible for the day-to-day administration and program implementation for the programs of assistance to private secondary education, post-secondary vocational and technical education, and higher education respectively. Likewise, it may engage the services and support of any qualified government or private entity for its implementation. The State Assistance Council, hereinafter known as the Council, shall be headed by the Secretary of Education, Culture and Sport as chairperson, the chairperson of the CHED, and the Director General of the TISDA as co-chairpersons, with representatives from the National Economic and Development Authority, the Department of Budget and Management, the Department of Science and Technology, and representative from duly organized nationwide association of teachers, students, parents, and school administrators concerned with secondary, post-secondary vocational and technical education and higher education as members. The last three members shall be appointed by the Council upon the recommendation of the respective sectors for a term for 1 school year subject to reappointment for a maximum term for 4 school years. A representative each from the Committees on Education of both Houses of Congress shall be designated resource person to the Council. The Council, the Council shall meet from time to time as the needs arises to assess the effectivity of the programs and to ensure that the secondary schools, post-secondary vocational and technical institution, and higher educational institution where student recipients are enrolled continue to provide quality education. For this purpose, the Council shall establish criteria to determine which secondary schools, post-secondary, vocational and technical institution, and higher educational institution may continue to enroll students and teachers faculty as recipients of government assistance under this Act. So now let's move on to Section 16, Appropriation. The amount needed to implement this program shall be provided for in the Annual General Appropriation Act for the year 1998. The appropriation of 1 billion pesos already appropriated under the General Appropriation Act of 1998 shall be used for this purpose. All funds appropriated for this purpose shall be constituted as a trust fund to be administered by the State Assistance Council, which shall be directly and automatically released to different regional offices of the. Now we have penalties in Section 17. In case of violation of the provision of this Act or the rules and regulations promulgated pursuant thereto by an institution, the Department of Education, Culture and Sport, the TESTA, and the CHED, upon the recommendation of the Council, may bar the institution from participating in or benefiting from the programs of this Act and from other programs of this Department without prejudice to administrative and criminal charges as may be filed against the school and or its responsible officers under existing laws. Repealing clause in Section 810. All laws and decrees, particularly Presidential Decrees Number 932 and 1371, and such letters of instructions, rules, and regulations or parts thereof which are inconsistent with this act are hereby repealed or modified accordingly. So, thank you for listening.